So, hey Zach, how are you? How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Oh, sure, it's my pleasure. So like before we get into it, just introduce yourself to all the listeners or the viewers so that they know what they're listening to.
Okay, yeah. So my name is Zach. I'm the founder of a mobile app called therr.app. And there's basically a rewards app, and it's sort of like a mix of social and rewards for posting at local restaurants.
That I did try it though. It's certainly very interesting. So how does it really work? Like, what is the connection between social media or and the restaurants? How is the like Venn diagram found there?
Yeah. So with any social startup, you kind of have to start somewhere to build an audience. And the problem I see with social networks is not the platforms themselves, but instead it's the business. Um, I think, for example, Facebook, their business relies on scroll ads. So for them to make any money, they have to build their entire social network around maximizing scroll ad revenue. And I think that's the problem with all social networks today. And it leads to the deeper problems of these like toxic algorithms or issues that affect people's mental health or misinformation, etc. So my plan with their app is to start with a different business model that focuses on a collaboration between a sort of social influencer and a business. And the niche I'm starting with is food services and restaurants. So the idea is to build the business model in a way that social users earn, financial rewards or points that they can exchange for financial rewards. And in exchange, the businesses get content posted about their space. Um, so there's a really like transparent relationship between a local business and a local social user. And from that point forward, then I would plan to expand it and kind of build more of this social app around it. And then, of course, expand out of just restaurants to really everything social, like events, um, and any other like local space.
Oh, that's very interesting, actually. Is it the first time any company is doing this?
Um, yeah, I think there's tons of companies out there trying to start a new social network, and there's good reason for that. One is, Facebook was really successful, Twitter was really successful, Instagram, TikTok, and those companies make a lot of money. So the
Mhm.
one consideration is okay, people want to start this network so they can make a lot of money. Another consideration is there's, of course, in the media and kind of just like the public domain, there's this understanding that social media is bad for you or it's toxic or it's broken. Modern social media has issues. So people want to build a company, a social network and make it better, fix it. And I think
Yeah,
that's where most people start. Um, but I don't think anyone's really tackling it in the way that we are. I think they're just trying to um, build a better social network. They're not really as focused on like, let's create a totally different business model so that we can be successful in the long term, but also not be forced to create toxic algorithms and code that are going to, have an adverse effect on people across the world.
for sure. Now, if we like look at uh, the metaverse, for example, it is also a new kind of social network in one way or the other. From what actually I've seen from the Facebook demo and all these things. Do you think that what are your thoughts on that? I mean, the metaverse, it kind of reached its peak of time a while ago and is pretty stable from then. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think it's important to remember that the terms social network or social media are really just buzzwords.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and what those words mean changes over time. So, 10, 15 years ago, whenever it was that like MySpace started, social media meant one thing, and today it means, it has a much bigger scope. And now we have this new buzzword, metaverse. Uh,
Yeah,
and to me, 10 years ago there were games, I think it's called Half-Life or
yeah, have to.
it is Half-Life, there's The Sims, all these old games that were sort of like a metaverse already. Even
Hmm.
Minecraft has been around for a long time.
Hmm.
Um, you can think of any video game where you're kind of in the first person, like World of Warcraft, as a metaverse.
Yeah,
Um, so I think it's important to first acknowledge that, like building virtual reality spaces for people to interact. It's it's only new because it's virtual reality. But the
yeah,
metaverse has been around for a long time. And sure, we can call it social media because you're interacting socially with people. But you interact socially with people on Halo or Call of Duty or any video game. Um, so yeah, I think virtual reality is interesting. There are some fun aspects of it. To me, it's not my favorite thing. I'm more interested in like mixed reality or augmented reality, where you're still in touch with the world around you. You're still walking around and seeing actual reality.
yeah,
Um, and then you're sort of like overlaying these add-ons to like help you better understand the world around you or help you calculate some probability of this decision versus that decision. So it's technology as a utility, not technology as a replacement.
that's I'll not let that's the most interesting perspective about metaverse I've heard till date. Do you think it will uh, pan out in the future with what we see? It is today from the Meta when Meta launched and with all these new metaverse apps? Do you think it will change in the future, or do you think it will be accepted by people and used as a way to detach from kind of reality?
Yeah, I think with any like monolithic technology like um, the metaverse or virtual reality, um, it's not something that happens overnight.
Hmm.
It's sort of like a gradual adoption. Um, and virtual reality, I think, has been around for what, like 5 or 10 years. I'm not sure exactly, but people use it, but it's not like the norm. It's not like the majority of people use it day to day. Um, I think the work from home trend will have a huge impact on it. And I think that's why Meta's focusing on VR for like the office space,
Yeah.
uh, so that you can more better like interact with people across the globe while you're working. I think the technology is still clunky, and you got to think about what virtual reality is trying to do.
Yep.
They're trying to replace a lot of aspects of reality, of like actual human interaction that we've evolved for so long ourselves
Yeah.
organically. Um, so it's like we're trying to reverse engineer human nature. uh, so yeah, I think I don't know how I feel about it. I don't want to say like, oh, it's never going to be the norm, and then 10 years from now, everyone's wearing a headset walking around. Um, I definitely think like AR is going to more, it's going to be adopted more quickly because it's like less of a giant leap away from reality. It's more like,
In
um,
addition to reality.
yeah. So it's
Mm.
like, okay, I like my reality. Why do I want to replace it and sit in like an egg in my house and float around like Wally all day? Uh, so yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it yet.
Yeah. So I guess the first social interactions we had was like in person. Then gradually the shift started from in person to like kind of MySpace, if I'm not wrong. And then with all the social media networks, it might be that metaverse might be the next big thing. But I definitely think that AR would be a much better thing than using virtual reality. That's a good point.
Yeah, I like how you said that when you mentioned MySpace, it's like the internet really came around in the first place to connect with people at long distance.
Yeah.
Um, Even before that, it's like the telephone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like at first social media, as the buzzword goes, was people trying to connect long distance. But as time went on, um, Facebook became a way to connect with people who weren't long distance. Like you could walk down the street to your friend's house, or you could get on your computer and text message them.
Yeah.
Um, so I think the social media experiment was really problematic in that specific regard, because it started to replace um, that face-to-face interaction with a long distance interaction. And I think we need to like draw a clear line between, um, okay, I want to connect with someone across the globe, so I have to use technology, or oh, I want to connect with someone in my city. Give me a good reason to like go find that person and have a cup of coffee or dinner and talk. Um, but if it's so much easier and more convenient for me to like stay at home and put on a VR headset, why would I then go into the city and meet someone? Uh,
Yeah.
so I think it's really important for like the future of humanity that we put a focus on improving that interaction of going to the city and meeting someone face to face. So that's where I think AR could be really cool to like enhance that experience. So to me, I
Yeah.
sort of see like AR and VR in direct competition.
Yeah. That's something which we could see in the future. So what you're doing at there is that you're kind of bridging the gap between social interaction in real life and interaction virtually. If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, so I think most people like when you hang out, you're going to an event space or you're going to eat dinner or lunch.
Hmm.
Um, so it's all built around like physical spaces.
Yeah.
Um, as a startup, I don't have the resources to like build this crazy awesome AR app. So I
Yeah.
have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And the goal is to like build this community, get enough support that I could get some investment to start developing more complex technologies, build a development team, etc.
Yeah. So what is the like you said that like I saw in your um what do you call it? The link tree also that the ads option, the first social media with the ads option. So how do you guys make money then? Because most people will switch off the ads. So the only option left for you is for businesses to actually pay to kind of like increase the visibility, something like that.
Yeah, good question. So that's a small piece of it is when we do have so many users that there's just a flood of content. A business, yeah, they could pay to be more prioritized. For example, if you walk through a city and you start activating nearby spaces, the first one you see might be someone who's paying for an ad. Um, but to me, that's still a little bit too much like existing ad-based social networks. Um, so our goal is to have various ways that businesses could kind of incentivize users to go to their restaurant versus someone else's. Um, so one way to do that is like the business can pay for their coins, and then they can offer their coin to users for various actions. Maybe it's like just post a picture of our food at the location. You're helping us with promotion, so we'll give you these coins, and you can exchange those for value.
Okay.
But another thing could be like feedback about our restaurant. It could be like bring 10 friends to this like laser tag place and
Yeah.
you earn value. Um, and then rather than just like taking all this data that we're getting from users and selling it to third parties, the data is more direct with that local space. So the local space could subscribe and then they could get customer relation management. So they could see, oh, I had these 100 people visit my store. I know their interests are tacos and laser tag. So I'm going
Yeah.
to advertise um, to people at the nearby laser tag business and have them like come over and get tacos after. Um, so I think with more of that like localized data sharing, it's more focused on the user and giving them the freedom to say like, okay, I want to share my data, but who do I want to share it with? Do I want to share it with like the entire globe, with giant corporations who are like preying on me to like suck as much money and life out of me as they can? Or do I want to share it with a local business who is putting that money back into our local city's economy, which then benefits me? And there's like this cyclical mutual benefit between us.
Yeah. That's. I mean, I think, like, to be completely honest, you can refine that a bit more, the revenue model. But yeah, that sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be new ideas that we have to think about to solve
Oh yeah,
these
for sure,
problems.
for sure.
Um, but yeah, it's a work in progress.
Yep. So, do you think that with the we'll talk a lot about social media because that's the main area that you're working on. So, do you think that with the increase in technologies and that we have seen in the past and we are seeing these days also, social interaction like in real life will decrease by a lot and has actually started decreasing a lot and it can actually have detrimental impacts on the health and the mental health of some people too. Do you think that will be impacted severely by the growth of social networks and social media platforms?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's already happened. I'm 30, and when I was, I don't know, 10 or 15, that's when like AOL first came on the market.
Hmm.
Um, so that was like before MySpace even existed. And I mean, I remember what social life was like when I was younger. Of course, I was a different age, different view of the world, but um, yeah, like if you wanted to hang out with a friend, you walk down the street to your neighbor's house and ring the doorbell and be like, "Hey, can my friend come out and play?" Um, but now it's like, oh, I can just sit at my computer and play a video game and never go out. And then as far as like being social, I just get on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. Um, but I don't think that's so much of the problem. I think long distance communication is great. It opens up a lot of doors and like diversity in the world. I think the problem though is like disinformation, um, toxic algorithms that promote sensationalized content, and that sort of stuff leads to these really like fringe extremist case of like mass shootings, which has been just
Hmm.
rapidly growing, at least in the United States.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that's already a huge problem. Um, I also think that like the the like collective attention span of individuals is like rapidly declining
For sure.
uh, because of things like TikTok or like YouTube short form videos. Like people don't read a full book anymore. They just watch a 30-second video on YouTube and they like think they know everything. So I think I don't really know where this inflection point's going to be, where like things kind of like just really hit a wall and people realize, I guess civilizations realize that like we're going in the wrong direction. Let's turn the car around. Um, yeah, I don't know when or how that's going to happen, but I think it will inevitably. Uh, it's a hugely complicated topic that's way over my head. And honestly, it's
Yep.
a bit scary, but yeah, I'm optimistic that people are starting to see like authenticity is really important. You know, there's these new apps like Be Real, um,
For sure.
and I think there is a change that's happening. But yeah, it's just a really complex, huge web of people kind of starting to see that, and there's like just like there's adoption of technologies, there's adoption of ideas. So I hope that things are starting to move in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think about Be Real actually? I want to know about that because I am interviewing Hadi Stebbings in like a day or two, and he is one of the like seed investors in Be Real. So what are your thoughts on that? It's not available in India. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't know too much about like their business model and how they're monetizing. Um, I like the general idea of like you can't really prepare for this post and create this like fabricated post of what you're doing. You kind of just have to share it in the moment, which is similar to their app. There's like create your moment. I'd love to kind of integrate features like that. I know there have been like mixed feelings about Be Real over time, but I'm sure the company is seeing that and they're going to try to adapt and continue down the trend of being authentic. And I mean, that's their entire, it's in their name. So they have to like
Hmm.
in some way be the app that is
Yeah.
like the authenticity app or something. I don't know.
Yep.
What do you think about it?
What do I think? I mean, I am like the most centrist person on this because on the one hand, I support that people should be real, like the name suggests.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, the thing is that most people use social media just to like get us dopamine hit,
Hmm.
and like they want to in some way or the other leave the or detach from the reality for 30 minutes or 10 minutes or for how much time how for the time being actually that they're scrolling through their feed or seeing some Bugattis or anything. I don't know, but
Yeah, I think
that
that's
is
a good
where
point
yeah.
about like the dopamine rush. Like for anyone trying to build a new social network, you can't just pretend that doesn't exist. You still have to like have some features that provide that dopamine rush. Um,
For sure.
but you have to think about it differently, like uh, more of like a healthy dopamine rush. I mean, our bodies create dopamine for a reason,
Yeah.
uh, but I think like these big corporate social networks have abused that, and they've sort of become like drug dealers in a way. So they kind of
For sure.
use that dopamine in like an addictive kind of way. Uh, so I think new platforms have to
Yep.
focus on it more of like a healthy addiction, you know, like exercise, more of like an exercising your brain. Like
Yeah.
some of these apps like Duolingo do really, really well.
Yeah. Actually, so I think I was reading somewhere that there are two kinds of dopamine. So one is what you get from social media. That is the reason why it is unhealthy, because first is short term. You scroll, let's say TikTok or Instagram, whatever, for 5 minutes. You get a small dopamine hit, and then you get back to work, and it lasts for a very short time. The other one is when you exercise. After you complete your exercise, it is draining during that moment, but the moment you finish it, you feel better, and that is actually healthy dopamine. So I think, yeah, people,
Yeah,
like,
that's
companies
a
should
really
start.
I think that's a really awesome perspective, and that's kind of how I try to think about developing their app.
For sure. That's how companies should actually use dopamine.
Hmm.
Awesome. This was. I think you have to go now. I mean,
Hmm. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me on the podcast. I thought this was
for
a
sure.
really like fun, interesting conversation.
Sure, it was short, and I think one of the best best conversations I had this week, or maybe this month. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, well,
Thank you.
keep in touch, and I'm on
Yep.
Twitter, so we can follow up there anytime.
For sure. I mean, just I'll just end with one question.
Okay.
So, what advice would you like to give to all the young builders or the young founders out
To did you say to founders?
there? Yeah, young builders or the young founders who are just like starting out. Any what advice? Any one piece of advice?
Yeah, I would say just talk to as many people as you can. They always say like know your audience and do your user research before starting to build something. Um, Unless you plan to just constantly continue to build something until you get it right. It's a lot easier to like know from the start what you should build, how you should build it, what people want. So yeah, just talk to people and like learn as much as you can.
For sure. That's it. Incredible. Awesome. I guess that's all from my side. Anything you'd like to say?
No, that's all I got.